Nairobi's underworld. Inside the city's most feared gangs and their reign of terror. Nairobi, the bustling capital of Kenya, is often celebrated for its vibrant culture, economic dynamism, and breathtaking skyline. But beneath the surface, the city has a darker side. A world controlled by gangs that instill fear in the hearts of residents. Among these criminal enterprises, few have been as feared and as deeply entrenched in the urban fabric as the Gaza gang and the notorious Mungiki sect. While the name Shatas may not be directly associated with any dominant gang in Nairobi, the influence of violent criminal networks in the city mirrors the dangers typically associated with the term. The rise of Nairobi's gangs. Like many cities experiencing rapid urbanization, Nairobi has seen a surge in organized crime fueled by economic disparity, unemployment, and a fractured social structure. Many of these gangs operate in informal settlements where government presence is minimal, and the rule of law is often dictated by the gangs themselves. The Gaza gang, one of the most feared in Nairobi, is primarily active in Kayole, an estate on the eastern fringes of the city. The gang draws its name and cultural inspiration from Jamaican dancehall culture, particularly the infamous Gaza Empire, associated with dancehall artist Vybz Kartel. Gaza members, often young men armed with crude weapons and firearms, have been responsible for a string of violent robberies, extortion rackets, and targeted killings. They communicate using coded language derived from Jamaican patois, and have a distinct dress code that mimics their Caribbean counterparts. Another dominant, and arguably even more terrifying group, is the Mungiki, a quasi-religious sect turned criminal organization. Mungiki emerged in the 1980s as a Kikuyu ethnic movement, advocating traditional beliefs and rejecting Western influence. However, as the years passed, the group evolved into a feared gang deeply involved in extortion, illegal taxation, and brutal executions. Unlike the youthful Gaza gang, Mungiki is structured more like a mafia, with a strict hierarchy and a deeply ingrained code of silence. They control matatu public transport routes, extort business owners, and have even been linked to political violence. The Gaza gang's modus operandi. The Gaza gang operates with the efficiency of a well-run criminal enterprise. Their members start young, with teenagers being recruited to commit minor crimes before being initiated into more serious activities. The gang finances itself through robbery, drug trafficking, and extortion, preying on local businesses and residents who have no choice but to comply with their demands. One of their most notorious strategies involves house invasions, where they storm residential areas, robbing people at gunpoint. Victims who resist are met with extreme violence. The gang is also notorious for its assassinations, often targeting rivals or defectors. Social media has played a surprising role in their operations, with some members flaunting their wealth, weapons, and criminal exploits online, which has led to increased police scrutiny. The Mungiki's ruthless grip. Unlike the Gaza gang, which thrives on street-level crime, the Mungiki sect operates on a more systemic level. Their influence stretches into transportation, real estate, and even politics. They collect taxes from matatu operators, threatening anyone who refuses to comply. The group has also been linked to brutal beheadings, used as a form of intimidation against those who defy their authority. One of the most chilling aspects of Mungiki's reign of terror is their secretive initiation process. New recruits undergo rigorous and often gruesome rites of passage, which can include acts of extreme violence and pledges of loyalty that make it nearly impossible for members to leave without facing severe repercussions. Law enforcement's response. The Kenyan police force has waged numerous crackdowns on these gangs, with mixed results. While some key figures have been arrested or killed in police shootouts, new leaders quickly rise to take their place. Extrajudicial killings have become a common tactic, with police officers taking the law into their own hands when dealing with suspected gang members. For instance, the Nairobi Crime Busters unit has been heavily criticized for executing suspected criminals without trial. While this has instilled fear in gang circles, it has also sparked outrage from human rights organizations, who argue that such actions violate the principles of justice and due process. The influence of international criminal networks. Interestingly, Nairobi's gang culture has not developed in isolation. The Gaza gang's ties to Jamaican dancehall culture, highlight the impact of international crime trends on local gangs. Similarly, the structure and operations of Mungiki bear striking similarities to mafia-style criminal syndicates found in other parts of the world. One gang that mirrors Nairobi's violent underworld is the Shadas of Buenaventura, Colombia. Like their Kenyan counterparts, the Shadas control entire neighborhoods, running extortion rackets and enforcing their rule through brutal violence. The gang emerged as a faction of a larger criminal network, and has been embroiled in deadly turf wars with rivals like the Spartanos. The parallels between the Shadas and Nairobi's criminal groups show that urban crime thrives in environments where socioeconomic disparity is high, and law enforcement struggles to maintain order. The impact on Nairobi's communities. For ordinary residents, living under the shadow of these gangs is a daily struggle. Business owners are forced to pay protection fees, families grieve for loved ones caught in the crossfire, and young men are lured into crime due to a lack of opportunities. Women, and children in particular, face heightened risks, as gang violence often escalates into sexual assault, kidnappings, and even human trafficking. In some areas, community vigilante groups have sprung up, taking justice into their own hands. Mob justice is a common phenomenon in Nairobi, where suspected criminals are sometimes beaten to death by angry crowds before the police even arrive. While this highlights the deep-seated frustration with law enforcement, it also underscores the dangerous cycle of violence that plagues these neighborhoods. Can Nairobi break free from the grip of gangs? The fight against gang violence in Nairobi is far from over. While police crackdowns may offer short-term relief, the root causes of gang culture, poverty, unemployment, and lack of education need to be addressed for long-term change. Community programs that offer mentorship, vocational training, and educational opportunities could provide young men with alternatives to a life of crime. Civil society organizations have also stepped in, advocating for human rights and working towards rehabilitating former gang members. However, these efforts often struggle against the deeply entrenched networks that make it difficult for individuals to break free from gang life. Nairobi's gang problem is a complex issue that requires a multifaceted approach. While law enforcement continues its battle against criminal enterprises like Gaza and Mungiki, long-term solutions must focus on social and economic reforms. Until then, the city will remain a place where fear and violence lurk in the shadows, waiting for their next victim. As Nairobi continues to evolve, the question remains: will it rise above the grip of gang violence, or will the cycle of crime and retaliation continue for generations to come? Only time will tell. But for now, the battle rages on in the streets of Kenya's capital. As we wrap up this deep dive into Nairobi's underworld, it's clear that organized crime remains a pressing issue. From the rise of gangs like Gaza to the long-standing influence of groups such as Mungiki, these criminal networks shape the city's streets in ways both visible and hidden. While law enforcement continues its fight, the real change starts with the community, by providing opportunities and breaking the cycle of crime. If you found this discussion insightful, stay informed, stay aware, and let's continue shedding light on the realities that shape our world.